concert
I told you it was
was
gonna get
canceled.
What I tell you?
The bill was
What did
insane.
I say?
The list of artists
Never received the time cut because what came out was that she had an illicit relationship with Special Agent Keith Cromer.
Special Agent.
I want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big budget film.
Across the board, yeah. They get covered on the hip hop blogs. It is what it is. Yeah. And you watch because I have nothing else.
Enemy. I make them very clear that we're enemy.
Okay.
I use
That's fair.
I use my energy
To
to destroy things around them.
If there's one thing that hip-hop artists can agree upon, it's that you don't mess with 50 Cent. Rick Ross is out there trying to stir things up once more, and it's quite embarrassing. Why is this person getting involved in a feud that has nothing to do with him?
I don't know.
I don't have a problem with it.
To put it bluntly, Big Meech discovered the hard way that 50 Cent is the friendliest foe you will ever encounter. Now this is where things get really shady. Big Meech was never truly devoted to Rick Ross in that sense. For months, he was only using him as a pawn to make fun of 50. At this point, loyalty is no longer important to Ross. He is doing everything in his power to stay in power. Ross played the free Big Meech card, pretending to be Meech's staunchest ally. But now that the snitch suspicions are public, he is attempting to utilize that link to bring 50's name into the mix. Back to the 50 Cent spotlight, let's break into the weird part where 50 isn't even giving him the time of day. The biggest mistake Rick Ross has ever made in his career is using Big Meech's name to get influence. Rick Ross and 50 Cent have been at odds for years. But this time around, with Big Meech involved, it's clear that Ross is trying to get attention by luring 50 into another public altercation. Let's face it, the only time Rick Ross makes news these days is when he sulks 50 Cent's name to gain influence.
Away from the Big Meech concert. Get your tickets right now. Make sure everybody flying to the city.
When you consider it, Rick Ross could not give a shit about Big Meech's legacy. He has been manipulating events behind the scenes, and his main goal is to create drama. As soon as Meech left, Ross jumped in and pretended to be his best friend, giving him dreams of big-budget projects and movie agreements. He quickly gave the impression that Meech was going to change his life.
You've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big.
However, don't fool yourself. That was never going to happen that way. Ross wasn't attempting to assist Meech. Rather, he was using him as a pawn to exact revenge on 50 Cent, and it worked for a while. As soon as Me appeared next to Rick Ross, 50 wasted no time in calling him a snitch on Instagram, posting a picture of a rat with a caption that targeted Ross's entire BMF image. When 50 labeled Me and the informant, people assumed he was exaggerating and making a big deal out of nothing, but when you look at these photos, it's not surprising that 50 felt completely deceived. But let's change the script for a moment. What if Rick Ross truly had some genuine interest in Big Meech? Perhaps he wanted to bring him back in style? You could even argue that Ross's obsession with making a BMF movie led him to court Me in an attempt to gain his approval. This kind of publicity doesn't just happen by accident. We're talking months of contract and booking planning.
Shout out to my homie F. Gary Gray, Antoine Foucault, what's up? Tarantino, it's a lot of legends. This is gonna be big, I can feel it. I'm just talking.
That strategy was doomed from the beginning though, as we all know that 50 Cent owns all the rights to the BMF tale without his consent. Now that Chase's influence is waning, Rick was unable to film a single scene. Where is Rick Ross? Big Meech is out there frantically attempting to figure out why his legacy concert failed, and why no one is hurrying to help him get back on his feet. The only person he can blame is himself. The truth is that Rick Ross used Big Meech as a pawn and didn't care about helping him. This was never about loyalty or brotherhood. It was always about taking jabs at 50 Cent. However, Ross didn't realize that he might have done 50 the greatest favor of all because, given everything 50 did to maintain his reputation, it's possible that Big Meech was always a snake waiting to show his true colors, and we all know how biased 50 is towards snakes.
You ain't got to get bit.
Now that Meech is out here in the cold, burned by the same guy he thought would help him regain his position of power, rumors are circulating that Rick is trying to turn the tables on 50's people by spreading false information about what 50 allegedly did to Big Meech. But guess what? No one is listening. What's crazy is that throughout this whole time, Rick Ross actually believed he was outsmarting 50 Cent, acting as though he was the one behind the scenes. What he doesn't realize is that 50 saw this coming from a mile away. This may surprise some people, but 50's always known that Rick Ross has been borderline obsessed with him, not because of any genuine beef, but because Ross has been envious of 50's success from the beginning.
Right. Nothing else works for him outside of mentioning me. When things get bad, he mentions me.
Nevertheless, 50 has always been the quiet one in the game. He is aware that if Rick Ross hadn't continued to spark their feud every few years, Ross's career would have ended long ago. For this reason, 50 rarely bothers to reply, knowing that he is the only reason Rick Ross receives any attention in the blogs these days.
Across the board. They get covered on the hip-hop blogs. It is what it is. And you watch, because I have...
We all witnessed how things transpired when the so-called iconic concert was canceled, and 50 Cent didn't hesitate to boast about it. He claimed he wasn't involved behind the scenes, but the streets were undoubtedly buzzing as he subtly hinted that the concert wasn't happening. To be honest, the only reason 50C responded the way he did was because Big Me got involved. Genuine conversation. There are rumors circulating that 50 may have used deceit to have Big Meech's Welcome Back event canceled.
Just had your key. Do you know with your one key, me and you got the same key to any embarrassment?
Merritt Bank Arena abruptly canceled tonight's event due to unanticipated circumstances shortly before it was scheduled to start. According to their official statement, refunds will be issued at the point of purchase.